Hello, everyone. This is Shannon Port, and I welcome you to the Holy Womanhood podcast. I cannot even begin to tell you how amazing it is to be here with you today. We are in February 2026, and we are here today for the return of the Venus Mysteries. The Return of the Venus Mysteries will be our first episode of 2026. But it is not a new topic here. As most of you know, the entire foundation of all of the work we do here is built upon the Venusian mysteries and all of the spiritual information and work that we have been doing for well over 20 years. The entire Art of the Feminine School is founded on these mysteries. And the reason we're calling it the return of these mysteries is because the time has come, although we've been doing the spiritual work behind the scenes for a very long time, to really allow that fountain to flow into the world from a true source where this work has been offered up on the altar of divine feminine initiation. And so I welcome you here to this episode, and I'm look forward to all of the future episodes where we will be here meeting for the elevation of the divine feminine on our planet. Hello, everyone. This is Shannon Port, and I welcome you to the Holy Womanhood podcast. Today is February 7th. I am recording on the very first episode of 2026 on February 7th, and it will go live on February 13th, which falls on Friday the 13th, which is so perfect. Friday the 13th, the holy day of the goddess and the divine feminine. And this episode, our first episode in the season and in 2026, will be available now, not only on YouTube, but it will be on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and on all podcast platforms. So this is something I'm really, really happy to announce. So Friday the 13th, here we are. This is Shannon Port, and I am here today for the return of the Venus Mysteries. The return of the Venus Mysteries. We're also calling this the return of the new Venusian mysteries, because the work that we have here and the work that we're holding, the archetypes, the symbols, and the codes, including all of the work in the Divine Feminine Wisdom School, including all of the work of the Goddess Kabbalah, the Divine Feminine Kabbalah, which has been an original work that we have received here over the past 20 years. We're holding a work that falls in the lineage of the feminine mysteries, but it's not just the feminine mysteries, it's the new feminine mysteries. It's the mysteries and the archetypes and the codes that have been transcribed for this time in order to really, really awaken what we call the body of Eve, or the collective body of the primordial woman on this planet. And so we also call this a divine feminine reset. I've been using that word for a while now, and it goes along with all of the reset that's happening on the planet. But this is truly, truly a divine feminine reset. And as we go through this episode, we will be very specifically talking about why. And so, with everything that is happening in our world, there has never been a more important time for this work and this stream of feminine wisdom to be released. We see all that money, all that fame, all that technology, even all that science and religion and spirituality bring. They are all inert without the divine feminine wisdom. In other words, without the divine feminine, The systems and the institutions and the streams that are on our planet are inert. They cannot feed into the next evolution of the human race without really, really understanding the power of the mother, the power of the cosmic mother, the power of the universal mother, but also the power of the mother on this planet and the power of the female body, the esoteric mysteries of the woman, which we call the holy womanhood. Again, all the money in the world, all the technology in the world, all the discoveries really mean nothing. There is an attempt right now to try to hack the feminine. We've talked a lot about this over the years, to hack into the power of what we call the active feminine principle and use it and bend it to the will of men. In other words, this power, this great power that we have for those of us who carry a lot of feminine energy, is the power of the goddess, and it's aligned with the Holy Spirit, and it's aligned with the cosmic mother, and it's aligned with all of the codes of the goddess Kabbalah and the tree of life. And when we try to use our smaller will in order to bend that power to our own projections, we get really far away from what we call the alchemy of the human heart and the activation and initiation of the human heart. We are here today to bring just that, to bring the true understanding of what the feminine principle is, what the role, the spiritual role of the holy womanhood at this time is on our planet, and also the role of all of the masculine and the feminine energy, and the role of all those who truly, truly resonate with the feminine energy and resonate with the powers of fertility and creativity. We're trying to hack into something that we have not yet discovered. In other words, we're trying to change something without even understanding the original primordial template of that thing. And in many ways, that thing is the woman, her reproductive system, her auric field, her heart, and her womb, and her creativity. And so, what we will be doing today is we're going to look at the archetypes of 2026. You know, every year I like to start off by really looking at the archetypal influences and the waves that are coming through the zodiac and above into our world, because those are the waves that influence human consciousness. We are not just independent of the cosmos. All of the planetary streams are constantly beaming to us. For those of you who understand and study astrology, are beaming to us influences that have a huge effect on which way we go, on what our thoughts are. In you could also say that our thoughts are streams that come from these planetary forces. This is the work of Goddess Kabbalah, that there are influences that come to us, and how we receive those influences and how we know how to harmonize those influences determines our sovereignty. It determines our agency. It determines our creativity. It determines our fertility. It determines our success in relationships, in how we channel the power of our heart as well as the power of our word. So what we're going to look at the archetypes of 2026. There's a lot of them, and they're good. There's a lot of really, really big changes happening in our world. There is no denying it. And some of the transits of 2026 are huge. Then we will look at the holy womanhood, the divine feminine wisdom, and what we are bringing this year. Especially this year, we're starting really, really to open a revealing stream that is very, very necessary. And so we're going to look at what that is. And then we will, I have a huge announcement to make. After that, we're going to look at a program that I have coming, and I'll just tell you a little bit about it right now. It's called Remastered. This is probably one of the most, it's probably the greatest gift to me to be able to present this coming year because it holds the entire body of work of Art of the Feminine, the Art of the Feminine curriculum, the Art of the Feminine podcast. What I have been working on the past 6 months is to completely remaster the original audio files and teachings of the Divine Feminine Wisdom that were released in 2012. This body of work is epic. It's an original stream. It was able to come through me at that time, and it's safe to say that I don't think I could bring that exact stream in again. We are going to keep unfolding the heights of the esoteric codes of the Divine Feminine, but that work, for those of you who know the Art of the Feminine podcast and remember it, that it lasted about 4.5 years. That work, let's see, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, lasted almost 5 years. Yes. That work came in at a time before we had the great shift into technology. And so there's a lot of studies being done now that show that things that were produced, streams of information that came out before the year 2015 hold a different frequency. I'll just say this. When I remastered these, I had to bring them into studio sound. And so I had to work with various different technologies, but I had to listen to every episode for the first time in many, many years. And I will say that listening to these recordings and these audio files brought me to tears because I had to relive the entire time that I was receiving this work and putting it into the world. First of all, it's in a different frequency because it was a different time in our planet. We weren't inundated with technology at the time. It was still a little more pure in the ethers. But also, I got to really, really be validated in just exactly what was coming in these recordings. They were so profound. They were so pure, and they were channeled at a time when I was living in nature and when I was hiking every morning at sunrise, but when I was also going through what we call the Divine Feminine initiations at the highest level. And so when I hear my voice and I remember the frequency and those moments of giving those teachings, it brought me to tears to know that that was being done at that time and that it would have a second life, which is what is coming this year. And I will announce all the details of that, but it will probably be one of the most important things that ever happens here on this platform. And so that will be the last thing we look at. We'll look at, and it's called Remastered, the whole body of work, and I'll be teaching it over a year-long program. I'll just say this, it's about remastering our planet with the female initiates, the true female initiates, and the divine feminine masters that will walk this planet in the age of Sophia. During the goddess epoch, as humanity awakens into the next evolutionary stream of consciousness that human beings are really meant to carry to this world. And so, okay. The archetypes. Let me see if there's anything else. All right. The return of the Venus mysteries. This work has been received through the inner divine feminine impulse of the female spiritual teachers who we often refer to as the initiates and masters. They are the holy motherhood of the universe, the motherhood of light. The spoken voice of the goddess, who we also call the Sophia Logos. So this motherhood of light, it is the way I was first shown it in the Akashic record going way back. This goes back to 2003 when I really went deep in the Akashic record. The way they showed me is that we have on our planet Earth some of you who are familiar with spirituality and with spiritual teachings of the ages might have heard at times of the ascended masters. There's different words. You might have heard of the Brotherhood of Light or the Great White Brotherhood, which has nothing to do with skin color. We always need to say that, but it has to do with a specific frequency of sound and light that's carried through. The ascended masters of our planet Earth are very, very powerful and hold the consciousness of those masters and teachers who have walked the planet and who have taught over the ages, the human race, who have brought in the teachings of the hierarchies for human ears to hear, that we might digest them and that we might evolve and grow into the spiritually mature beings that we truly are, our true identity, our true template. The Motherhood of Light are the governing body of divine feminine wisdom that are the mothers of the ascended masters. In other words, the Motherhood of Light is at the next level. It's above the ascended masters. It is the level that has completely emanated from the nucleus of the goddess, the original nucleus, which is the feminine womb and which is the holy feminine fire principle, which we'll be talking about when we talk about the archetypes of this year, which are the Wheel of Fortune, the number 10. We'll be talking about the Chinese New Year and the year of the fire horse. We'll be looking at the transit of Neptune in the sign Aries, which is a fire sign. There is huge archetypal information for us to talk about there. The conjunction of Saturn and Neptune at 0 point of the zodiac in the sign Aries. This is the sign where the spring equinox in the north takes place. All of this is connected to fire and the nucleus. This is truly, truly a year of the return of the divine feminine. And so when we're working with the wisdom of the cosmic goddess and the Motherhood of Light, we're working with those, the field of consciousness. And I want to say also the beings, the luminous beings that have given birth to the Brotherhood of Light. They are the mothers of the brothers. And we are only beginning to pierce the veil. And this work is one of those streams that has been able to pierce the veil and receive directly from the mothers in order to truly, truly receive and hold, not only to receive, but to hold the frequency of the mothers, which we call the 13 goddess spheres on Eve's tree of life. This is Goddess Kabbalah and the Divine Feminine Kabbalah, which I just finished teaching on December 19th at the end of 2025. I'll just say this. We call it Holy Descent. And we had our final meeting, or actually, we still have a Q&A coming in about a week or so, but we had our final ritual. It's called Goddess Ritual. We work with the goddess rituals. We work with the depths of rituals that are infused with these archetypal codes and symbols. And Holy Descent is truly it's the activation of Eve's tree of life, her 13 sphere tree of life for this time. 13 is the number of the goddess. And so I'm so happy we're here today on Friday the 13th. It's all connected with Valentine's Day happening the day after this podcast goes live on all the platforms. We are here to work with the number 13. This stream, starting for myself as the one who was holding the space for the Art of the Feminine platform to receive it and work with the mothers. It began in the late 90s, but then it really started to come in pieces and in layers, starting with light body yoga and starting with light body woman and then light body tantra and then all the different various stages of this work. It's been being built out into this amazing body of work that we call the Secret Feminine Doctrine or the Divine Feminine Esoteric System. So just taking one moment The motherhood of light. The motherhood of light have such a piercing frequency. All people can open to receive what you may have called the goddess Sophia. Sophia is available to all of her children, but her streams are really, really high voltage light. In other words, sound travels on light, light travels on sound. And in order to receive the stream and hold it, there is so much transmutation required and regeneration required. And one of the archetypes of this year we'll be looking at is the Venus retrograde that will take place. I believe it's beginning in October 2026 in the sign Scorpio. Venus retrograde in Scorpio will be a vessel and the chalice of these mysteries activating on our planet. It's huge. It is huge. So, the motherhood of light. All right. This work comes from an original impulse, and it is not in the domain of the past male teachers. And we will be talking a lot about the male streams and the male teachers, and even their attempt at teaching the feminine wisdom or the divine feminine wisdom without wanting to actually do the real work of the heart. The feminine mysteries are not accessed by those who have not transmuted their heart, who do not understand the true consciousness of woman and what woman carries on this planet as the mother, as the birther of all the races throughout the ages, as the vehicle of feminine energy, creativity, fertility, but also the anchor for the higher energies to even give birth on this planet and regenerate matter into what we call the holy matter. In other words, it is through the woman that we regenerate matter. It is through the woman that we bring matter into its higher frequency. It's through the consciousness of the mother, the womb, the heart, and art that we are able to create the chalice that's able to receive the new wine. So this work is not in the domain of past male teachers, occultists, or mystics, unless we specify. So what that means is the work that we're bringing in, I'm always really, really careful to cite work that comes directly from the male lineages. However, I will say that there is a direct correspondence in this work from the masculine lineages. Even some of the lineages that had the female teachers, those females were holding, their soul group swung a bit more to the masculine side of the female soul group. And I will explain what I mean by that. They weren't necessarily holding the new iteration of the feminine mysteries that require understanding the dragon current, love relationships, the womb, fertility, and the high art that is birthed through this union. And so what I wanted to say is that we are not working against these streams, but it is time to put to the word the truth about the divine feminine in our world. The work that we work with at Art of the Feminine, all of our work, this podcast in Remastered is a vault of the Venus mysteries, the new Venus mysteries, through the spoken word and that transmission that was given through hiking every morning at sunrise. There is a purity in that stream that is so genuine and that is so true, that is also carrying the pain, the suffering, but also the joy and the creativity and fertility of what I was experiencing in this lifetime at that very time. It's all encoded. And so What the masters, the Motherhood of Light, would like us to know is that these teachings must come through the women who have regenerated. The power of the word, the logos, as it works through the heart chakra, it works in union with the heart and the mind. And when the logos is only working through the masculine principle, through the mind, and the heart, it has not been fully developed. By that, we mean understanding the feminine mysteries of holy womanhood, of love relationships, which I say right at Valentine's Day, right on Friday the 13th. The woman's heart in love is a power plant. The woman in love becomes a source of power on this planet like no other power. The female heart is coded differently. And so there's a lot at stake when a woman loves and when a woman gives her feminine energy. And by learning the wisdom and by moving through the initiations that literally regenerate your heart and make you humble, they activate your vision so that you can truly see. They activate your hearing so that you can hear the subtle sounds. They activate your voice, your touch, your entire auric field. This is what happens to the female initiates who have agreed to hold this wisdom for the planet. It's a job where you had to roll up your sleeves, you had to get flung around the wheel, and you had to keep going, keep climbing, keep healing, and stay, but not just doing that on the mundane human level, but doing it while you're carrying, while you're privy to holding a stream for the motherhood of light. That means the stream has made contact, and now you're holding it while you're walking through these initiations without letting go. There's been a lot of situations where the dark forces targeted the female initiates and got them to let go of the stream. For those who have ears to hear and understand these words I'm saying to you, in the past 10 years, let's say since 2015, there has been a huge effort to pull those females who carry the wisdom into the old male stream, that they bow to that stream, that they submit to that stream and hand their feminine energy, their adoration, their approval, their consent, and their trust and loyalty to streams that do not carry the wisdom. Now, I just want to say one thing, and that is that we're not at war and we're not trying to take. I have to speak very powerfully in giving this in the Return of the Venus Mysteries because it's time. And it's time for this frequency to be revealed on the planet. This vibration has to spread around the world to uplift our planet. We see what's happening in the world right now, specifically around these issues of the feminine energy, women, young women, children, under the age of 18. It could be women or it could be boys and girls. But we see that everything is being revealed and it will continue to be revealed with Neptune and Aries, but it's going to get even more foggy because Neptune is that fog. So I will always give credit where credit is due, but it's also the time to call out where. Now, in fact, we're not focused on mistakes. We're focused on the truth. So we magnetize, we become the magnetic feminine women by holding that truth and bringing those who have fallen away from that truth slowly to the truth. And we can embody that truth without ever even speaking about it. Many people hold it. There are some of us that have contracts to teach and to really teach. And in the case here with my work, it has been to hold it my entire lifetime and to wait patiently until the time was just right to reveal this. So we're almost to the archetypes of 2026. Okay, we're also, one of the things we'll be talking about here is the shadow of womankind. So now let's jump to women. Let's jump to women and let's talk about the shadow of womankind. We'll start here because it is very important to state that the collective woman, who we refer to often as Eve in her collective consciousness, the primordial woman, she carries a huge responsibility for our planet. She is the true mother of the human race. Let's start with how women treat each other. Anybody who has studied with me know how deep we go here. The archons are those interdimensional dark forces that influence the consciousness of human beings, which are very real, started with women betraying other women. If you can get a woman to betray another woman, you can certainly get her to betray herself, to betray her children, and to betray the men in her life, and to betray her own mission. So women carry a very powerful ability. We move energy in the unseen world. Because we have negative polarity in the physical world and positive polarity in the unseen world, our thoughts, our hidden actions, our feelings and emotions are really active in the unseen world. And so as a woman, you can, this is the mysteries of the moon. We call them the moon mysteries or the lunar feminine mysteries. We can present one way. All human beings can do this, but with women, it's a voltage that is much higher and much greater. We can present one way, we can speak words, but our inner dark shadow consciousness can be doing something totally different. The true work of the holy woman is to make the outer consciousness in a complete alignment with the inner world. The outer world and the inner world must match, and then the key will unlock the door to the higher world. And so it's why we always start with women and how the respect and the codes that we have in the holy womanhood. We started holy descent. We start with the codes because we have to, I have to at least say them. It doesn't mean we're all human and we're all on this path where we're going to fall and we're going to do the thing that is not the right thing many, many, many thousands of times in our own lifetime. But once we keep hearing it over and over, we learn to respect other women, to respect their space, to respect their work, their words, their children, their homes, their sacred families, their friendships, meaning we never purposefully, through ego or through lust or through envy, try to bring down another woman. We never sneak around and see what we can take from her, thinking it's not seen. It's always seen. One thing we know as women, it's also one of the very first things we talk about, is that as women, we need to know, because as women, we can see in the unseen world. Once the goddess gives you vision, you can see everything. There are rules around this, but once you can see in the unseen world, you know what's happening. And there's a lot of forgiveness when you're privy to this. This is one of the great powers of Venus, that, and also of the lunar feminine mysteries, is that you understand that there's no judgment and it's not about condemning, but you learn really quick how to navigate. We're in a labyrinth. We learn how to navigate friendships and our work environment and our teaching environment, understanding that there's always a mix of forces that show up. And when you're carrying a really high stream, the dark comes, and it comes hard and fast. And it also comes very, it can also come very subtle and discreet. It can really, really get in there and put a mask over itself and fool and aim to fool. So, what this is not about, it's not about paranoia, it's not about suspicion. Those are all Neptune shadow qualities. And Neptune is entering Aries. Neptune was just in Pisces for the past about 13 or 14 years. It will now enter Aries. Neptune holds the shadow of the feminine as well as the highest feminine mysteries. Neptune is the prism of the mother's womb, and Neptune carries the archetypal codes that create everything. Neptune is of Pisces. We know Pisces is the great womb of the mother, the great cosmic consciousness, the Christic consciousness, but it's also considered bondage. It's considered our downfall, our undoing. So in all things with spirituality, we carry not only the light, but the shadow. So women carry the power of Neptune and the collective feminine. All those who create, let's say all those who are creatives, are working with Neptune. Neptune is the poets, the writers, the filmmakers. And by the way, art and feminine energy is going to be absolutely profound in these coming times. As you know, what my platform is called Art of the Feminine, and I have a background in the performing arts as well as in the fine arts and just being around a lot of creativity. I carry a lot of Venus. We like to invite her in every time we're here. Art is going to be profound, but what we're doing is we're perfecting the frequency of art because everything is about frequency. So we have to heal. So what we say that the mother of the human race, let's start with how women treat each other, women, how they have treated men, and now how they treat their own children. Yes, we say that. It's programmed spiritual influence. Once you understand the true currency, what is real power? Real power is being in alignment, being attuned to the 13 spheres on Eve's tree of life, in the goddess Kabbalah tree of life. These are the feminine superpowers. We call them the Venusian powers. And these are the frequencies that we attune ourselves to so that we can receive this stream and become the magnetic feminine, what we talk a lot about in the Art of the Feminine transmissions. That will be in the course, the year-long course Remastered. Okay, so we're almost to the archetypes. What is Goddess Kabbalah? We've just talked about it, the Kabbalah. But the Kabbalah specifically for the goddess with the 13 spheres. All right. I think we're ready to go into the archetypes. We're also going to talk about AI and feminine energy and creativity at this time because we carry some wisdom around that that's really, really powerful. And also, it just cannot be stressed enough that love relationships, and this is why I was so excited about Valentine's Day. Love relationships are so important. Love is the platform of conception, pregnancy, birth, when we're living in the holy frequency. It starts with love, romantic love. The male masters like to talk a lot about disinterested love for a reason, because then you get to skip over the regeneration and the purification of the female heart. You don't have to enter into it, and you don't have to be bothered with the real work. So if we go too quickly to being disinterested and just universal love, which is Pisces, we miss out. This work is here to go right into the core of those mysteries, and that's why we call it the new Venus mysteries. All right, let's look at the archetypes. Just take a moment. You know, I will say that when we get to holy womanhood, There was a male teacher that made a statement. I have no desire to say the name, and this statement was going around recently because of everything that's happening. The veil is being lifted. Make no mistake. The exploitation, the usurping of the feminine energy, the sexual force, all of it has been around since the beginning of time. But we're in a time where there's a great reconciling, an awakening, a true revelation. And these sins are not just in a specific group. It is the world we live in. It is the ocean that the human race lives in. So it's fun to point to specific people and say, have them, the blame fall on them, but it's our entire culture. It's everywhere. It's on both the right and the left politically. It's even buried in the religions. There's a lot of this, there's a lot in the religions that will need to evolve in order to go into its true frequency in the goddess epoch. But the quote that was going around said, I'm sure a lot of you have heard it. I won't even say who said it, but the quote was, and this is just the archetype of the male teachers. God is a construct, but cute girls are real. God is a construct, but cute girls are real. So when we say that the laws of nature do not apply to love and to the integrity around the dragon current, which, if you're new to my work, we call the sexual force the dragon current, so we don't have to say that word over and over. The dragon current is that serpentine force, and it has to be worked out through woman, through the holy woman and the holy womanhood. We'll just leave it at that. Any teacher that finds it acceptable, make no mistake, they are not receiving the blessing of the divine feminine or the goddess, period. When you claim to be a teacher, especially when you drop words like feminine or divine feminine or the goddess, and claim to be about carrying these energetic teachings, but you haven't looked inside your own behavior and been accountable, it's not possible. In the goddess epoch, in the age of Sophia, the feminine mysteries reign supreme. And it is only for men and women through the feminine mysteries that the gates of the goddess, the 13 gates, will open. In this era, we are going to have to understand our feminine energy. We're going to have to understand how it works. We're going to have to become sophisticated at mastering the power of our word, the power of how we operate on the inner plane, and all of it is seen, and the power of how we use love. Now, we're humans, we're human beings, we're flawed, deeply flawed, love relationships. One thing I want to say before I look at these archetypes, love relationships are meant to teach us. So please don't look at your relationships now and think that all is lost. It's not about that at all. Every relationship is a stepping stone and a platform of sacrifice and learning. It's the altar of the heart. And we have to just keep going and getting better and better and more attuned to the true teachings. And that's why these teachings are here. There was one other thing. Okay, so we don't have to be perfect in love. Oh, somebody came to me and wrote to me about fertility. I had talked about women misusing their fertility. We're starting right now. All of us have come here to learn, especially the female initiate. So this is not, let's look at the track record. Let's look at what we've chalked up in this lifetime. It's not about that. It's just about gaining clarity and understanding going forward. Every time we receive information, we're able to integrate just a little bit of it and act on it. We get better. We get more holy. And the goddess can reach us with more of her divine feminine frequency. Okay, here we go. Archetypes of 2026. It's so hard to believe we're here. Okay. All right. Here we go. 2020, so we do this every year, by the way. We're kind of known for it. 2026 is a 10. The year we are in right now is a 10. The number 10, last year was a 9. We get this through numerology, through astrology. We work with the archetypal codes, which are the divine feminine wisdom. And they have to be run through the awakened heart to truly, truly reveal their potencies. There's many, many streams of what they mean, what they are. But once you carry the female vision, you're speaking the voice of the goddess, meaning she can literally begin to work through you and reveal the mysteries, the feminine mysteries and the new Venus mysteries. So the Wheel of Fortune governs the number 10 in the tarot. I will say, for those of you who are new, that my life's work is in the tarot and in the 22 archetypes of what we call divine consciousness, the human divine consciousness. And so for the past very, very long time, we work with the archetypes. The number 10, the Wheel of Fortune, is on this year. What does that mean? The wheel represents the masculine and the feminine. Now, there are the exoteric mysteries and the esoteric mysteries. The wheel or the circle with the center, the dot, could also be called the spine and the heart. The spine represents the dot in the middle, and the heart represents all of the space, keyword there, space, around the center sun. And so we have our spinal column, where we have our 7 major chakras. And then we have our arc field surrounding the body. All of this is represented in the Wheel of Fortune. And so what the wheel tells us is that the forces of nature are turning, because it's the year of a wheel. Things are about to really, really change. The Wheel of Fortune, it corresponds to the planetary energy of Jupiter. And we work with Jupiter specifically in this work as Lilith. It's so deep. And Pisces. So the center of the circle of the Wheel of Fortune is a fire nucleus. It's the goddess womb. All right, we're going to now put these archetypes together. So we're in the year of the wheel, the 10. The wheel is a circle with a fiery heart nucleus core. Call it a womb or a heart, same thing. It also can correspond and connect with our pineal gland. This wheel is controlled by, let me see if there's a better word to say. Let's just put it this way. These are the new Venus mysteries, and this is work that's been revealed here in a very deep way. Venus in the tarot is key 3, the Empress. It is Venus that has full command of that wheel, but only when the female initiates have truly come to their highest initiation. This requires what we call here the goddess sacraments. There are various sacraments that activate a seal. We call them the 7 seals of Mary Magdalene. Mary Magdalene is the archetype of Venus. It activates that seal in your auric field. And it is when the female initiates start to really, really have that work, under their belt, have taken these initiations, and they're no joke. These are not, oh, I had a breakup, or oh, I lost my job, or they're the human suffering and human, trials are deep. They're very deep for all of us, but there are specific energies that are required to consider something the higher initiations. All life is initiation. But these initiations are the initiations of the motherhood of light. And these mysteries are so grueling. We call it the feminine crucifixion and the feminine resurrection mysteries. It's everything we work with here. They are so grueling because they require a certain energy of your heart and the knowledge that is in the heart to be present. So they don't happen outside of wisdom. The female initiate that is going through it also carries the wisdom, which makes the suffering on a level. It's like if you think of Christ in Christianity carrying the cross when he was God. So the archetype of Christ comes into this world, incarnates into matter with all the glory of the cosmos, with the cosmic Christ energy within him, all the knowledge. Some of it's stripped at first, like it is with all the female initiates as well, and then has to undergo the most humiliating ritual of the crucifixion. Even the Roman Empire, if you study crucifixion at that time, it was used for heretics, and it was used for people to humiliate them, to be hung up and to have people just look at you and to suffer in such a inhumane way, and then to carry the cross. This is a different level of suffering, to be God and to carry these initiations. Now, the divine feminine, we're not claiming to be God. We're all God. But what we're saying is that they come in holding the feminine mysteries and even prior lifetimes connected in this lineage, which is huge, which we'll be talking about. You do not have to subscribe to that, but it's definitely part of that. You're part of the soul group that is bringing this work to the world, and it's very real. And when you start to really understand it, the whole world opens up to you, and you can read the language of the archetypes, and you can also begin to hear the stream and trace it back to where it comes from. And in my own case, I got to see other members of my soul group and where they were, where they had incarnated. So it is the Empress, and it is key 3, the Trinity, the mother, the fertile mother, the pregnant mother, the active feminine principle that turns the wheel. So in 2026, the archetype is 100% here for the goddess and the revelations of the divine feminine wisdom. So we have Jupiter in the Wheel of Fortune, we have Venus in the Empress, and now the other correspondence that goes with this is the star. The star is key 17. Key 17 is the archetype for the sign Aquarius. All of the ritual, all of the activation and initiation that is taking place in our world right now is the precursor to the true awakening of the age of Aquarius, which we also call the age of Sophia. The star is the goddess doing the alchemy between the water and earth, with the 8 stars around representing, and 1 + 7 = 8. We do a lot of work here around the number 8. We won't go too deeply into that here today, but we most certainly will. The 8 is the number of the sign Leo. We just had the Leo full moon. We're in Imbolc season in February here in the Northern Hemisphere. And so all of these are fire, the Leo full moon. In fact, I went to do IG Live to put all this information in an IG Live. I was not able to get on with 2 hours of trying. I was denied. And so we were going to talk about the Leo full moon that happened, as well as Imbolc, both solar feminine activations. Along with 10, the Wheel of Fortune is a divine feminine activation. The sign of Aquarius is connected to Venus and the 8-pointed star of Venus. So these, let me see if there's anything else. We're really talking about here the activation of this wisdom, the activation of the holy womanhood, the empress, the mother, the activation of pregnancy, conception, fertility in the higher frequency. In order to do these things, we have to understand love. Plain and simple. The energy codes of true love. The love between the mother and the father, which create the child in the womb. And they also create something much bigger than that. They create the archetype of the Holy Trinity, mother, father, and child, which is an anchor point. So we're going to be really remembering these lost feminine mysteries that we've just spent the past 20 years really, really working with here. That's just how it's been. So, okay, let's look at the fire horse and see how all this fire is active this year. The fire horse is the unstoppable energy. I just got this off Google. The unstoppable energy, the solar feminine fire, that's from us. And it's the fire that amplifies the horse's natural vitality to charge ahead. So, this is let me make sure we've got sound on still. This is a fire year. Truly, we say holy fire, sacred fire, the fire of the goddess, the fire of the womb, the primordial charge that exists within the female womb that creates conception, that anchors in the soul from the higher worlds. That is fire. That is the divine cosmic fire that's inside the female womb and the female heart. The holy grail of the feminine heart is real, and it's connected to love and fertility and creativity. It's why the spiritual role of women is so great at this time. I cannot stress that enough. I want to say one other thing, and we'll talk about this a little bit. This is a time to study. It's not a time to consume. What do I mean by that? We live in the world of social media, reels, quick content, fast hits. And they come at you so fast, and there's such an abundance of them. That is not studying. Even if you're being fed that wisdom at rapid fire and you're like, oh, wow, oh, wow, oh, wow. They said this, he said that, she said this. Oh, wow. It's not studying. So in the mysteries, in true mystery schools, there's a level of contemplation, of study, of sanctity, and of what we call time. The feminine unfolds in time. The womb brings a child in time. After conception, you have 3 trimesters, and the child works with the planetary forces and grows a vehicle for the soul to incarnate. Woman is time, the maiden, the mother, and the crone. And so that's why wisdom, the Sophionic wisdom, is about understanding and mastering time, which includes mastering the breath, which affects the heartbeat, and also which affects the sexual nature of the human being. Our sexual impulses are connected to our breath, and they affect our heartbeat. And so all of it's connected. The fire horse, the Chinese New Year, the year of the fire horse, which is coming in just about a week or so in February, is very significant this year. Hugely significant. And we'll be talking more about the horse a little bit later. Okay, now let's look at Neptune in Aries. We're going to be talking about the archetype of the emperor. By the way, I just want to say again that we work with the tarot, Kabbalah, the tree of life, astrology, and pure goddess wisdom. That's what this stream is, and that's what you will get in this podcast. It is so rich and so deep. It's not a quick fix. It's a serious download of genuine wisdom that's coming from a stream that's anchored. This isn't an unanchored stream. This stream has been anchored. It's been verified. What that means is you get ideas, you get streams, and then you have to build the platform to actually hold it. That means verification through initiation. This is all divine feminine wisdom. But an example, think about when you're learning something. You may be studying a language and you can kind of speak it and you practice it at home and it's in your head and you can kind of say it because you've done some work. You can study it, but it's not anchored until you are speaking with another individual fluently. Then it's anchored. You own it. It's yours. It's not just wisdom you researched. It's not reading someone else's books. And there's a lot of male masters that have a lot of books that we'll be addressing. It is the actual working with the hierarchies that take you step by step through genuine outer initiations that are the mirror of the inner initiations. In other words, when we incarnate, especially if someone incarnates to be a spiritual teacher or to hold a spiritual stream, the events of that person's life will correspond to genuine initiation. And you will look back and realize the heightened events that took place. And then when you add them all together, these are what we call the goddess sacraments or the goddess sacrifices. They're all there. Those sacrifices create the immortal body or the body of light that is the work of light body yoga and light body woman and light body tantra, which is the healing of the dragon current. So the stream has to be anchored. When the stream is anchored, as the art of the feminine platform wisdom is, the transmission is real. We talk about transmission. When I first started my very first website, we said the wisdom of Sophia, a living transmission of the Sophia logos, the word of the goddess, the sound current of the divine feminine. When it is anchored, which with any true spiritual teacher, it's anchored or there's a certain quotient that's anchored. The transmission has a power that literally hits on the cellular level and imprints when somebody is listening through their heart and through a genuine and earnest desire to access the wisdom and to use it for healing and for healing the planet and for serving the human race and for bringing in divine creativity. I work with a lot of artists here, profound artists. I just want to bow to all of you, the poets, the painters, the many, 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 many artists, the dancers, the musicians, and then many who are in the spiritual arts. The art becomes aligned and it carries a frequency. Some of my soulmates on this planet have been artists, which I will talk about at some point. That's anchoring it. Oh, this is what I was going to say about that. That we can consume. There's a difference between consuming and imprinting, or consuming content and educating the soul. Yes, the soul has to educate itself. It's not a just I have enlightenment kind of thing, not in the feminine. The feminine requires the real work. And some of this has been frowned upon by male teachers that, oh, no, 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 no. Just know who you are and you're done. It's one and done. And then you're enlightened. Meanwhile, the underbelly and the inner shadow of many of these teachers is that they're still carrying that force. We're seeing this in the world right now. I want to mention this. In the world right now, a lot of women betrayed their own path and went towards a a stream that's still carrying the old energy that is anti-feminine. In order to feel safe, many female spiritual people convince themselves that they could find a home and be protected by a stream. If you have clear vision, you can clearly see the aura, not only in the physical world, but in the unseen world. And what it did was it usurped a lot of the spiritual energy on our planet. It ensnared the goddess. That's what happens in the piece to Sophia. She became ensnared with her desires, her creativity, her fertility, and the projections of her creative imagination. We are not pointing the finger or condemning anyone or anything. We are just pointing to the truth here that this is the wisdom of the new epoch. And it has to come through the females because the females have to put words to the travesty of the desecration of the mother and her holy womb. And as we said, we start with the accountability and responsibility of woman herself, because woman has so much power. With great power comes huge responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility. So let's just look at that. Let's say that Eve did have more power than Adam. Let's just look at that. If Eve has more power, Eve has more responsibility. A woman can bring a child into her womb, bring it to fruition, and birth a consciousness into the world. This is a power that men do not have. All women are in different places on the spectrum of that fertility, but the collective Eve is the birther of the human race. What does that mean? That means that Eve has the responsibility to mold that soul and that vessel and to bring in that level of consciousness and to nurture it and educate it and to give birth to the higher humanity through her own wisdom and her heart. It is a woman who decides who impregnates her in a civilized world. In a civilized world, the woman decides who enters my body. And so there's a great responsibility. Now, again, this is sounding really, it could almost sound like heavy. It is heavy when you really, really understand it, because it's a huge responsibility, not just to get it right, but to learn, to educate ourselves, to have the feminine mysteries given, to have women come gather around a genuine teacher and to have them share this wisdom with their children. I have one son in this lifetime, and he called me with his girlfriend right before I got on to do this recording. And seeing those two together, I've talked about him a lot in this podcast, and knowing that he carries in his heart some of the gifts that came through my work, and then seeing him with this beautiful female smiling with just the most radiant happiness and joy and love coming off her. It was on FaceTime. I knew that that was the goddess speaking to me before I came on to do this recording today. That is what we can do. We can infuse the world with wisdom, with higher knowledge, and with understanding. And we can learn how to reclaim our sexuality and to value ourselves. All of the work here is about the self-worth of the feminine. All of the art of the feminine transmissions are about feminine energy, divine feminine energy, and the activation of the holy womanhood. So I just had a really great code sent to me. I won't say it out loud, but it just flashed on my phone. So let's look at Neptune in Aries. All right. Okay, so Neptune in Aries means that this great feminine power that we talked about is going to be transiting the sign of the Emperor. This will be the dismantling of the old empire, but not before things go pretty wild. So when Neptune touches Aries, we have water touching fire. Water puts out fire, but water is also the mirror. I often use the mirror emoji in my work because the divine feminine is the mirror. She's the magnetic feminine woman, the being that shines back the reflection of what is coming at her, including the reflection of the divine energies that come from above. Something to really, really mention is that when we become attuned to the 13 spheres on Eve's tree of life, our auric field becomes the living tree, regenerated. And the mirror that we hold is now emissive. So we are learning how to be as the holy womanhood and as human beings for all those who are here in male bodies that are taking in this wisdom, which I want to say you are so welcome and really encouraged to listen. I listen to all the podcasts about men all the time, always have, because the soul is feminine as well. But we are meant to become receptive to the higher energies, receptive to the stream of the cosmic and the higher frequencies, and then emissive out into the world. This is a huge teaching in the art of the feminine transmissions that we go into great detail. What happened is woman became absorbent to the physical world and she became programmed. The females of this planet are programmed, and they will be programmed even more with the coming technologies. In fact, the collective Eve is handing herself on a silver platter to that power that does not hold these mysteries. We talk about the techno-feminine era, the techno-feminine age, techno-feminine, or the techno-feminine agenda. It's the holy womanhood that will rewrite the destiny of the human race. And that is why this is such a crucial time on this planet right now. This is a call, clarion call to all women. It doesn't matter if you're on the right, on the left, what religion you are. This is about the holy womanhood. You know, I noticed something on social media. I oftentimes, you know how it shows you reels that are liked by people who follow you or who you follow. You know, it just will show you so-and-so like this one, so-and-so like this one. The reels that I see that are liked by, and I know some people who are pretty far one way and pretty far the other way. When I see those people, and I mean, they would probably never be in the same room together. When I see over and over again, the woman who relates to this ideology and the woman who relates to this ideology agreeing on certain things, it's always about the woman. It's always about the true mysteries of the divine feminine, meaning deep within woman, we know there's a honing device that knows what needs to happen. So this is a call for all women. Live your life, be the religion you are, vote the way you vote. But it's time for those who have ears to hear to put the feminine first. That's what this platform is. It's the remembering, it's reclaiming the lost feminine mysteries and the mysteries we call now here the new, the return of the new Venus mysteries, meaning these mysteries have been revealed for this time to step us over the threshold into the age of Sophia and the goddess epoch. What is going to happen is that now there's so many. Oh my gosh, there's so many details about I'm sure you can find videos everywhere about how long it's been since Saturn was in Aries, or Saturn and Neptune conjunct in Aries at the 0 point, Neptune's transitive Aries. It's going to bring a lot of illusions, deception, betrayal, wackiness. You know, Neptune rules addiction of all kinds. Neptune rules various pastimes that we have that are highly addictive, whether it's substances, whether it's pornography. Neptune governs all of these things. And so with Neptune hitting the sign of the Emperor, the kingdom is being hit. The empire, we've talked about the return of the Atlantean Roman Empire. The empire is being hit with a cloud, a dark cloud. It's the descent of the clouds. It's being hit with a cloud that will be so confusing and that will fool those who aren't anchored in this wisdom. It's easy to get fooled right now into conspiracy and to get sidetracked. Quite frankly, the conspiracies that don't hold the wisdom are a waste of your feminine energy. My advice, do not give your precious heart energy to them. There are certain things we speak out about. We are very well aware of what is happening in this world. There are plenty of things like what just happening in the past couple weeks. These are conspiracies that have truth behind them. But get to that place and then get busy and do this work. Study. Give your time to real knowledge, because real knowledge can hit like lightning. You can get struck with it and be like, oh, wow. And there's a burst of enlightenment. But then it requires time and contemplation, repetition. You know, in religion, things like the Mass repeat. You go over and over and over. The prayers you say over and over. In the rosary, you say the Hail Mary over. That's contemplation. In order to master something and truly build it on the inner plane, you have to do it over and over. And that's why all the work that we give in the remastered program that I'm doing this year, we're going to do the spiritual tools, the practices, the rituals, the meditations. Those are built up in the higher astral world, not the twilight, the higher astral world. Put it this way, Neptune in Aries will be the twilight on this planet. Nobody will know if they're coming or going. It won't quite be the morning. It won't quite be the night. It'll be that murky territory where the vampires come out and siphon feminine energy. But that's what Neptune in Aries will be. It's going to hit the I am. And so unless you know what to do with it, it can really, really manipulate and program. And those darker forces that understand how the zodiac works and the impulse that it's creating in humanity can use that. The zodiac in the lower forces can be used by those who understand, okay, this is what's happening in the world right now. Let's use it. How do we best use this? That's how astrology works. You can see the forces and say, this is the weather. How am I going to use it? These are my transits today. How can I use it? Especially the transit of the moon. I cannot tell you. If there's one transit you look at every day, look at your moon, because the moon will tell you where the feminine energy is active that day in your chart. It's huge. Understanding the moon and elevating the moon and getting past the fallen lunar feminine is really important. And when you work with the moon, you will see the waxing and waning cycles. The moon is fertility. It's the goddess. The moon is also Isis. Isis is the sun, but I'm going to leave that right there. We're talking about the sun today. So let's talk about, let's go into the energies of the podcast. Let me just see if there's anything else. This is the time of the emperor's undoing. That means the emperor has usurped we've given, and women have given birth to this emperor. So we are equally responsible for everything that's happening. It doesn't just fall on the males or females, or the masculine or the feminine. The feminine have birthed the world we are in today because our fertility has been programmed. We don't remember the purity and the vast privilege it is to bring a soul to this planet. It's a privilege of the very highest magnitude to be able to just say, I'm going to be a vessel to bring another soul to this world and be responsible for that soul. It's a huge, huge privilege and spiritual responsibility. And it's part of the spiritual role of the collective feminine. Now, all right, we're going to get through this. Let's see. Okay, we're almost there. So these are the new Venus mysteries. We'll be working here in this podcast. This podcast will be on very consistently. We work with the Kabbalah and with the codes of the tarot and astrology. as I've said, what makes this stream different is that we work with the 13 sphere tree of life. It's the original template that's been received here by understanding the codes and being able to, you have to understand a language in order to receive the higher iteration. So we have that language here built out. And so we're able to understand the next iteration, which is required. So this is what I also want to say. AI cannot replace the human heart. Human beings are portals of divine energy. Creativity, you can have perfection on AI, but that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't have the love behind it. Human creativity is backed by love, by curiosity, by the union of spirit and matter. AI is a vapid technology. Now, there's nothing wrong with technology, and we are not against technology. So I try to always say that. We know in the age of Aquarius, we're meant to have profound technology on our planet that will truly help the human race. But the consciousness that brings that in has to be acquainted with the feminine mysteries. And as of right now, it's a very male consciousness bringing this in. Some really good people who just think, hey, we're going to make things better. But if you think things are getting wacky right now, they can go so much further. For those people who say those are the AI doomsdayers or the AI, conspiracy cult, no, not here. We have eyes wide open and we have access to the wisdom. So we're speaking from the wisdom, in the wisdom, the vibration of the Sophia logos to say, wake up and understand. It's a clarion call for human beings to really claim their creativity. I was talking to my son yesterday and I was just like, are you reading any books lately? And he talked about the Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis, which is a book I have and have read. It's a classic. And C.S. Lewis was very religious and also just a serious philosopher and artist. I said, oh, wow, I have that. What made you get that? And he said, I follow someone on Substack and they quoted a quote from the book. And it was one of my most favorite quotes I've ever seen. And so I got the book. It was from the Screw Tape Letters. And the quote, I'll have to paraphrase. I don't have it here. That the way the devil tricks human beings the most is by getting them to live a passive life, by telling them that you don't have to do much. You just have to exist and not strive. When you think, and my son is Jacob, and when you think of Jacob's ladder, it's a striving. Yes, the universal currents will lift us up when we own them and when they're inside of us, but there's a lot of work. Anyone who says there's no work is not in the true mysteries. That's just the truth. So he was saying the devil tricks us to think we don't have to work in this lifetime. We don't have to strive. We can be passive and lazy, or we can just let somebody else do it for us, or just be fed things on social media and be entertained. We talk a lot about how spirituality has become entertainment. True spirituality is joy, but it's also work. I mean, for those, it's a kind of work like that saying, everyone's envious of what you have, but they're not envious of what you did to get there. It's that kind of work. It's the work you do to carry the wisdom is, in the feminine mysteries, almost unspeakable. We try to share it when we come together in the Holy Descent, but you can't put it into words, that kind of suffering that comes. But the fruit of it, the Saturn of it, is the complete activation of the Sophionic wisdom, the Sophia wisdom, the wisdom of the goddess, and the regenerated vessel of consciousness, which we could call the immortal consciousness, the resurrection consciousness. It's our body of light that allows us to travel in the higher worlds fully aware. Fully aware, we're able to see the many mansions of the Christ. We become capable of accessing all of the spheres of the angelic streams. We work with the angelic streams, Sophia streams, which work through the female heart, through love. There's no other way to get these streams until we have sacrificed on the altar of love in service. Every lifetime is different. You cannot compare yourself to others. You can't say, well, so-and-so's done this, I've only done this. We have many, many times we come onto this planet and incarnate, and each lifetime holds a body of work in our own Akashic record. But when you wake up, you know it's time to work. And that work can feel like play, but there's still a lot of suffering. There's no way around it because you're on an altar and you're sacrificing your old egoic consciousness to the new consciousness. It's the grail of the heart, the Sophia grail, the grail of Magdalene. So the AI there's nothing that can replace a true work of art by a human. It's feminine energy, the work of a child. When your child comes home from school and hands you the painting they finger painted, or writes you their first poem, or calls you with their first true love, that energy cannot be replaced. It's so real. And what that energy does, it anchors God on our planet. We need real, genuine feminine energy and heart energy to anchor the mysteries. Otherwise, we lock ourselves in this lower astral world where it feels like you can have anything you want, but nothing has any value. I will say this and let it be known far and wide. The only currency in the coming goddess epoch is the understanding of the divine feminine wisdom. Everything else will be in abundance. There'll be so much stuff, so much tech, it'll be fun to build up and watch us clean some stuff up in a good way. But the real currency, when we were walking into the new Garden of Eden, the new Eden, is to carry the wisdom. And that wisdom is known in the auric field of women. You can see, and as you are initiated, you know what resonates. You know who has a certain level because there's a frequency resonance of consciousness. Some people are a little ahead, some people are a little behind. Most of humanity is just getting started, but the true wealth is in the wisdom. And the wisdom is not knowledge. It's feminine energy. It's feminine frequency. The wisdom is what has happened and transpired in your consciousness as a result of that contemplation, of that study, of that receiving, and then verifying it in your own life. We have to verify it. That means we have to put it to the test. Okay, I got that wisdom. I did this course. I studied this thing. Now, guess what? The relationship just showed up. Now you get to practice. Or I just conceived a child. Now I get to put it to practice in my womb. Or I just got hired for my dream job, and now I get to execute my frequency that stays aligned in real life verification. That's where we're at. All right. So we also call these Sophia teachings, these feminine teachings, the Kabbalah of Venus and the Kabbalah of Eve, or the Kabbalah of Mary, the Kabbalah of woman. Receiving the codes of the higher female form to fully embody the collective woman with goddess consciousness. Goddess consciousness. The goddess is descending into women. So we talked about mastering time. I'm going to say a little bit more about men and the male teachers in the divine feminine. we've already talked about it, but for men who are teaching spirituality right now, really check yourself and just see where you are at. Sometimes it's really hard to know. Sometimes it's hard for the masculine to really see. The masculine heart is coded a bit different. The female heart is coded a certain way because of pregnancy in the womb. The heart communicates with the womb during pregnancy. And so woman has extra parts in the heart, spiritual parts and faculties that work in pregnancy. This is work that's come in through my fertility work. It's huge. That's why the female heart bears such a huge burden. Her ability to love the whole world back into wholeness is very real. When the women get together, they can love this world back into healing. When they do their work and when they humble themselves and when they stop competing and when they just allow themselves to receive, listen, and not take from other women, not compete, not be jealous, but to understand each woman is encoded with her own mission. We can work together. I don't know. I mean, I could say there's so many male occultists and mystics and who are all over the internet right now. Almost all of them have skeletons that are, I won't speak here, meaning the betrayal of the female. It's there on levels that I won't even say. So this is not condemnation. This is just activation to wake up and understand that it's up to the holy womanhood to bring this into the light in a mature way, in a spiritual way, and in a creative way, and a loving way, and a compassionate way, so that we can heal love in our world. Every broken female heart, every broken child, every broken arc field because of the mother and father being in a very poor state creates the world. Woman is the future. That saying, woman is the future. She creates the future. The feminine creates the future. So, all right. I'm going to talk a little bit about, let's see. Oh my God. So there really is some true evil being exposed right now. This is all Neptune and Aries. The fallen masculine, what we call here the fallen Mars force. I won't go into that here, but the fallen Mars force we talk all about in all my work feeds on the feminine energy. It cannot exist without feeding on the feminine. It usurps the dragon current of the woman. It idolizes youth. Obviously, youth is very beautiful and we love it. But in order to go through the mysteries of the feminine, you have to travel maiden, mother, and crone to see beyond the flesh. So for those male teachers who make jokes and think it's life as a rock star and it doesn't matter because the divine is only a construct, guess again. The laws of Sophia are real. The forces of nature are real. The feminine energy is real. The grail of the heart is real. Only through the grail of the heart do we activate the pentagram of Venus. This is the Venusian mysteries of holy womanhood. I leave you with this on Friday the 13th, 2026. I'm just going to take a moment and talk about what's coming. Okay. All right. Remastered. So the Art of the Feminine podcast, or the Art of the Feminine transmissions, the curriculum, was given in 2012 as a weekly call. At that time, I was living in an idyllic setting in the country, in a 300-year-old farmhouse, hiking every morning at sunrise, eating only food from the garden, living on a stream, and raising my son was young at that time. He was little. And I was in a relationship, a very serious relationship at the time of that stream. It was so deep. At that time, I was going through an initiation around worth. and the feminine self-worth. I had no idea of my own worth. As advanced as my soul is, as advanced as these teachings are, and I say that meaning like there is a lot of wisdom here, but the human vehicle was still carrying the shadow programming of not having worth. And what that does to the female teachers, they undervalue everything they do because it's a man's world. And surely this wisdom doesn't even compare to Silicon Valley, or doesn't even compare to, the big corporate CEOs or the bankers or the doctors or the this and that. We have been programmed to think that this wisdom is just an obsession that we can't stop. In my case, I've been working, writing, and teaching my entire life through all of it. But I did not fully understand. And as I was meant to do, I gave all of that away. Just put it out. My life's work now. That was meant to happen. I just want to say that because many, 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 many people around the world were able to receive this work. Recently, I went back and listened to every single transmission. And I was I could not believe that that was me. I really almost had a hard time believing. I was like, where did it all come from? It came from the goddess herself. It came from living in nature on a stream, hiking at sunrise every day, and being available, being 100% available to receive. I just surrendered everything and said, I don't care. This is my work for years and years at a time without knowing where it was going, what would happen, having people think I was nuts. But little did I really get at that time, I was going through the feminine initiations, and they were at at a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. So that work was removed in 2020, not by me. It was removed from the internet and from all the other platforms. And I found out about it. Somebody let me know that the work had been taken down. It was years worth of my work. And I felt so like I had been attacked. I thought, once again, why is my work taken down? This was my life's work. I gave it to everyone. Who took it down? Well, I sat with it for a while because my immediate thing was, I'm going to put it all back up. I'm going to put it right back up. And because it was during the era of 2020, which we all know what that era was, I was at home and I was isolated, and I had a lot of time to really, really sit with what had happened. And I was told at that time through the masters that oversee this work, put it in the school now. The time has come for it to be protected. Take this work. And at that time, I was just getting ready to build out the full infrastructure of Divine Feminine Wisdom School. So all of those audio files were put into the school. And that is where they've been for 6 years. So for the past 6 years, all those who go through the Divine Feminine Wisdom School, which is my year-long school, which is just a massive, massive body of work, but have had access to this work, specifically the work of Remastered. What I want to tell you is that many of the women, who got to hear these teachings again in the school, told me or wrote to me and said, I am in awe. I heard this work back when it came out in 2012. And it changed my life. It was a game changer. There was me before I listened to the Art of the Feminine podcast and me after. I heard that over and over. There was the me that stumbled upon this work, and then there was what happened after I listened to it. But what I heard several times is that coming back and receiving it again has been a spiritual revelation on another level. And so, because it's been in the school. So what I'm doing this year and what I have just done is the files were of I would call into a platform and speak, and the audio was not good. You had to strain. It was done through a phone, no mic, no sound quality, no studio sound. For the past 6 months, I've spent so much time, so much money remastering all of this work and putting it into studio sound for every single transmission. And so it was around the first week in January that I completed that work. And I was like, okay, what now? What am I going to do with this? Does this go in the school? Just for the school is a very serious school, and it's a quite a big commitment, both time-wise and financially. But all of a sudden, I knew it, that the work of the Art of the Feminine Transmissions is meant to be made available in a container, in a group membership, in a membership and a community where the work can be accessed in the new quality of sound, which is just, it's night and day listening to these teachings when the sound has been remastered, and have access for an entire year. It's 5 years worth of transmissions. It's around 65 recordings. And throughout that year, be in a membership community where you're able to interact with the other people who are going through it. And then in the process of that, meet live twice a month with me for a Q&A. And then for various transmissions, this will be providing the literal spiritual tools, the light body yoga teachings, the meditations, the feminine energy activations. What we're going to do in this container is I have never taught this wisdom. I received it and it was a transmission, but I have never taught to the specific episodes. It's a library for the Goddess Epoch. It covers everything. It covers the full regeneration of the new human sexual paradigm. It covers all of the Divine Feminine Wisdom library. It covers the complete tarot in a way that is the feminine transmission. We call it the Goddess Keys. The archetypes of the major arcana are the foundation of this work, and I have spent lifetimes, but really about 20 years in this lifetime, that is held within this wisdom, the 22 archetypes of divine consciousness, as well as the Venus mysteries, the alchemy of Venus. So these are all the different sections of all the recordings, and they are now remastered and in a year-long membership community, which is really like a group mentorship, because there will be Q&As. But the most important thing for this time is to really study. Going through those again, I know because I got to do it. When you listen, everything, it's like, wow, oh, wow. But there's sitting down and receiving is so much different than the quality of consuming we have on social media now. It's a different world. And that's why the people who went through that originally have a different vibration on this planet. When you see them, you know. The people who come and study with my work, many of them received those teachings, and they received them over several years and integrated them. And their view of the world is just on another level. I'm going to say that. So, okay. It's called Remastered, and it is the Divine Feminine Masters, the return of the Divine Feminine Masters to our planet. It is the real spiritual education of the Divine Feminine. It's not reels, it's not memes, and it's there to go into in-depth study, to experience Q&A sessions, the esoteric. We're going to go through some of the esoteric books that have profoundly impacted me in my lifetime. So there'll be a little bit of a book club thing going on there. And we will be doing all the goddess activation codes. We'll be doing live meetups for solstices and equinoxes. So it's really important to know the feminine is connected to our planet, astrology, and the codes. The reason that I'm not able to be in a religion, even though I grew up in a religion and I still value some of the teachings are they're there, but they're missing this. My soul could never be in something where I couldn't talk about the archetypes because that's my work, and the astrological codes and the codes of Kabbalah, the Gnostic codes. They're absolutely the wisdom of Sophia, but specifically in this stream, they are the wisdom of the new Venus mysteries, and they have been anchored and they have been verified. So underneath this video on all platforms, there will be some form of sign up, and I'm going to officially open the gates on spring equinox, which is March 20th, 21st. But the platform will open on 2 2 2 on 2/2/2. So on February 22nd, a Sunday, the platform will officially open, but beginning immediately, I will be putting out the sign up for more information and perhaps even the page for that container, and with all the details and all the information. And so please look for it. It's called Remastered. It's a full body of the divine feminine wisdom in 2026, starting fully activating. It's a school. We're calling it the outer school. The inner school and the inner nucleus is the divine feminine wisdom school, which is a graduate degree level of study. In that school, it's a bigger financial commitment and time commitment because it's like getting a master's. It's that level of studying. The outer school are the art of the feminine transmissions, which is really the same, but meaning it's the foundational wisdom that created the school. And so it's going to, in the future, be required to do the outer school first, just to really know what you're getting involved with. So that being said, we're going to close this podcast with I Am in the Seven Directions. I just want to thank all of you for being here for this first podcast. The next podcast will be probably around an hour, and I will be uploading regularly on all platforms. Let's close with the solar feminine I Am in the Seven Directions, repeating after me. I am before me. I am behind me. I am at my left. I am at my right. I am above me. I am below me. I am unto me. Taking a deep, deep, deep breath in and hold. Make an intention for what you want to call forth in this amazing year of the solar feminine, the year of the fire horse, the year of the wheel and the empress and the star. And exhaling it all out, we say, activating all three levels of consciousness. I am, I am. I know I am. I am, I am. I know I am. I know I And thank you so much for being here today. Again, if you're interested in coming into this container with all of the library, this sacred vault of the divine feminine wisdom in 2026, with monthly calls, Q&As, group mentoring sessions, talking about spiritual books, going through the activation codes of the divine feminine, working with the teachings of light body yoga, this is the place to be. I'll be saying more about it, but it's big, it's epic. All right, I will see you next time on the Holy Womanhood podcast with Shannon Port.